Okay, so we're diving into the world of jewelry repair. Honestly, before these RoleCatcher guides you sent over, I had this image of someone hunched over, like a super dusty workbench with a magnifying glass,
Hmm.
squinting at a tiny watch.
Sure.
But turns out it's a lot cooler than that.
Yeah, it's really interesting how much goes into it behind the scenes. People don't realize the skill it takes to bring a piece of jewelry back to life.
Right. And RoleCatcher really lays it all out there. I mean, you've got detailed career paths, specialized tools. They're even using AI now to analyze job descriptions and help people prep for interviews. It's kind of wild.
It really speaks to how much the job market's changing. You need every advantage you can get.
Totally. So the guide lays out this whole journey, right? You start as an apprentice and can work your way all the way up to becoming a, get this, master jewelry repairer.
It does have a nice ring to it, doesn't it? And it's not just a fancy title. I mean, they've really honed their craft to a point where they're leading teams, developing new repair techniques, even collaborating with designers. It's pretty high-level stuff.
Wow, so like almost like inventors in a way, huh?
Yeah.
But even starting out, the actual work is so much more than I thought. You've got resizing, resetting gems, sourcing specific metals, the soldering. It's a lot more than just replacing watch batteries, huh?
Oh, yeah, way more. And it's not just those traditional techniques either. The guide talks about how technology is changing the game. Like, we're talking CAD software for designing and laser welding for repairs. This isn't your grandma's jewelry shop anymore.
That's what I love about this guide. It doesn't sugarcoat things. Like they get into the pros and cons, and it mentions high earning potential, which is always nice. But then there's this whole thing about potential exposure to hazardous materials, and I'm like, wait, what kind of hazards?
Well, you have to remember you are working with precious metals and
Hmm.
sometimes chemicals, so safety is definitely a factor. But the guide stresses the importance of training and a safe work environment, protecting yourself.
Good point. So how does someone even break into this field? Is it all apprenticeships, or is there like a formal education route too?
It seems like there are a few different ways to get started, which is cool. You could do a formal course in jewelry repair or goldsmithing, to learn the fundamentals of different metals and gemstones, that sort of thing. Or you could go the traditional apprenticeship route and learn on the job from someone who's been doing it for years.
See, both sound great in different ways, right?
Yeah.
Formal education gives you that structured environment, while apprenticeships throw you right into the mix, getting that real-world experience right away.
Exactly. And what's really cool is how the skills seem to progress. You start with those basic repairs, but as you gain experience, you move on to more complex projects, even managing teams. There's a lot of room for growth.
So let's talk about that day-to-day for a second. Are we talking like bustling shop floors or more quiet, focused workshops? What's the vibe?
Well, according to the guide, it could be both, actually. It seems like jewelry stores, repair shops, even some manufacturing companies are all potential workplaces. So you could be interacting with customers one day and the next, laser focused on a super delicate repair in the back.
That's a good point. So you probably need to be comfortable switching gears, going from customer-facing to that really detailed work. What about the work itself? Are we talking like tiny screwdrivers and tweezers? What all do they use?
Oh, definitely those. But they also have a bunch of other specialized hand tools. Resizing a ring, for instance, often involves actually cutting and soldering the metal. Or, like with setting a gem, that requires a super delicate touch and a really precise hand.
And I'm guessing they have to know all about the different metals, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, you can't just go around using any old metal for a replacement. Knowing the difference between platinum, gold, silver, that's crucial. And then there's a whole art of soldering, creating a seamless join, controlling the heat perfectly. And then, before a piece goes back to its owner, it needs to be cleaned and polished until it practically sparkles.
It's crazy meticulous work, especially when you consider how valuable and often sentimental these pieces are. Speaking of which, is it all like glamorous as it sounds? What does the guide say about the work environment?
Well, it does mention it can get pretty noisy and dusty at times, especially in a workshop. Remember those safety precautions we talked about? Those are key here.
Totally. Can't imagine inhaling metal dust all day long. And all those tiny repetitive motions, that's got to be rough on the hands and wrists too. It makes you appreciate the skill involved even more.
Oh, absolutely. It takes a certain type of person, that's for sure. And it's not just physical stamina either. The guide stresses the importance of good communication skills. Remember, you're interacting with customers, colleagues, being able to clearly explain a repair, give accurate estimates, that sort of thing. That's a big part of it too.
It really is so much more than meets the eye. Speaking of, when the guide mentioned technology impacting the field earlier, they mentioned CAD software and laser welding, but they didn't really explain those. Can you shed some light?
Yeah, those are really revolutionizing the industry. Like with CAD software, jewelers can create these 3D models and designs. It allows for some seriously intricate and customized repairs.
So if you have like a vintage ring with a broken prong, they could use CAD software to essentially recreate that exact prong.
Yep, pretty much. And then laser welding lets them do repairs on an almost microscopic level. Plus, it uses way less heat, which is crucial with those delicate gemstones and settings.
It's mind-blowing, the precision they can achieve.
It really is. It's like this perfect blend of traditional craftsmanship and cutting-edge technology. You could be restoring something centuries old one day and then 3D printing a custom part the next. It seems like there's room to specialize in all sorts of areas.
And with the jewelry industry always evolving, there's always something new to discover and learn, too.
Exactly. It's definitely not a stagnant field.
I'm starting to think a career in jewelry repair is like being a jewelry detective, examining clues, solving mysteries, and ultimately, bringing these pieces back to life.
I like that analogy, that attention to detail, the patience, and that creative problem solving. It's all connected.
Speaking of which, I'm curious about those different career stages we skimmed over. What would you say are like the key differences between someone who's just starting out and, say, a master-level jewelry repairer?
Well, when you're first starting, it's all about learning those foundational skills. Like an apprenticeship, you'd be assisting those more experienced jewelers, getting comfortable with the tools, that sort of thing.
So lots of hands-on learning, but with a safety net, hopefully. I'm imagining they don't just hand you a blowtorch and a priceless tiara on day one.
Right. You'd be under the guidance of someone who's been there, building your confidence as you go. Then, as you progress to a junior jewelry repairer, you'd start tackling those tasks more independently.
So proving your skills, making a name for yourself.
Exactly. And then with even more experience, they might become a senior jewelry repairer, which comes with a whole other set of responsibilities.
Like what? Are we talking managing people, managing a budget, maybe even coming up with their own repair technique?
All of the above. Now they might be overseeing a whole team, making sure things are running smoothly and to a high standard. They'd also be the ones handling the really complex repairs, especially on those super valuable pieces.
Wow. So not just experts in repair, but leaders and mentors too. That's a huge jump. What about those who really excel, who reach that master level? What sets them apart?
They're the innovators, the ones pushing the boundaries of what's possible. They've dedicated their entire careers to this, and they're seen as the leading experts in the field.
So they're not just fixing jewelry anymore. They're shaping the entire industry.
Exactly. They might develop brand new repair techniques or really specialize in a niche area, like restoring antique pieces or becoming a master of a certain metal. Some even travel around, sharing their knowledge in workshops and mentoring the next generation.
That's amazing. It really does sound like a career with endless possibilities, especially if you're passionate about it.
For sure. And for those just starting to think about this, RoleCatcher does a really cool thing. They have these profile snapshots of actual people working at each level, talking about their daily tasks and how they got to where they are.
That's so helpful. It's one thing to read a job description, but it's way more real to hear from someone actually doing the job.
Totally. It makes the whole thing feel much more, I don't know, attainable.
Okay, so let's start with that entry-level jewelry repairer. What kind of stuff do they typically do on a daily basis?
Think of it as hands-on learning. They'd be assisting those more seasoned jewelers, doing adjustments, repairs, working on actual pieces right away.
So resawzing, resetting stones, figuring out which metals to use, all under the watchful eye of someone more experienced.
Exactly. It's about building a strong foundation, one repair at a time. They might even do some soldering and smoothing under supervision, getting comfortable with those tools and techniques.
So no task is too small when it comes to learning, right?
Yeah.
I bet they even get to polish up the final pieces, making them gleam.
You know it. It's all about attention to detail, even at that level. And speaking of which, RoleCatcher has this great profile from someone who's just starting out. Want to hear what they had to say?
Absolutely. I love getting those first-hand accounts. Okay, lay it on me. What's the word from the jewelry repair trenches? What's it actually like starting out?
Well, this is what one entry-level repairer shared on RoleCatcher, and I'm quoting here a bit. I've always loved jewelry, and I'm a total perfectionist, so I decided to take the plunge and become a jewelry repairer. They're just starting out right. Right now, I'm learning the ropes from these amazing senior repairers. They're so patient, showing me how to tackle all sorts of things.
See, that's what I was wondering. You're dealing with such valuable stuff right off the bat.
Yeah.
It must be reassuring to have that guidance.
Oh, for sure. Okay, so they said, so far I've gotten to help with resizing rings and necklaces, even resetting a few gemstones. And those tiny clasps that break? Yeah, I'm getting good at fixing those. I love their enthusiasm. It sounds like they're getting a really well-rounded experience.
Totally. Okay, keep going. What else?
One thing that really surprised me is you can't just use any old metal for replacements. Like, there's a whole science to it. I'm learning how to tell the difference between all the precious metals, platinum, gold, silver. It's more technical than people realize.
Right, like what makes a metal precious anyway?
Mm.
I mean, beyond just being rare, I guess. There's got to be more to it.
Exactly. Okay, so they said, right now, I'm really focusing on soldering. Trying to get that perfectly smooth, invisible join is way harder than it looks. See, that's what I was talking about, those fine motor skills. Soldering is no joke.
It sounds like they're embracing the challenge, though. Okay, is there more? This is great.
I love that every day is different, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. I'm even thinking about getting some certifications to boost my skills even more.
That's awesome. I love that they're already thinking ahead, investing in their future.
It shows real dedication. And it really highlights what we were saying about lifelong learning in this field. There's always something new to discover.
Okay, so that gives us a good picture of those baby steps, right? What about someone who's been at it a little longer, like a junior jewelry repairer? What's changing for them?
Well, they've moved beyond those initial tasks and are taking on more responsibility. They've got the basics down, and now they're starting to work more independently.
So they're resizing, setting stones, doing those repairs, but without someone hovering over their shoulder all the time. That's a big step.
It is. It means they've earned the trust to make more decisions on their own, like when it comes to those metal replacements.
Yeah.
Figuring out which metal to use, that takes a good eye. And understanding of how each one behaves. They're really honing those soldering skills, too, aiming for that invisible repair every time.
It's like they're leveling up, becoming more confident with each piece. And they're still all about that final polish, right? Making sure everything looks perfect before it goes back to the customer.
Oh, yeah, always. That attention to detail never goes away, especially as they become more independent. Which reminds me, RoleCatcher has a great profile from a junior jewelry repairer. Ready for this one?
Hit me. I'm curious to see what they have to say about this stage.
Here's a bit of what they shared. Since starting as an apprentice, see, they paid their dues, I've gotten to do so much. I've really gotten good at all the essential repairs, resizing, resetting stones, fixing broken chains, even working on some really intricate vintage pieces. You can hear the pride in their voice.
Totally. Okay, keep going.
They said, the thing I love most is the problem solving, honestly. See, every piece has a story, right? It's like each piece is a puzzle, and I get to figure out how to put it back together, make it good as new.
It's true. I never thought about it like that. But it is like solving a puzzle, isn't it?
Totally. And then they said, I'm constantly learning too. Sometimes it's a trick of the trade from a master jeweler. Sometimes it's a cool new technology, that blend of old and new that we were talking about.
Love it. What else?
Right now, I'm obsessed with micro soldering. It's amazing what you can do with it. The precision is insane. You can just tell they're really passionate about this.
It's contagious, right? Okay, there's got to be more.
Oh yeah, one last thing. I'm also studying for my certification. Hopefully that'll open even more doors down the line. See, always looking ahead.
That's awesome. It's inspiring to see someone so dedicated to their craft. And speaking of dedication, what about the next rung on the ladder? Those senior jewelry repairers. What sets them apart?
Now we're talking about the people you trust with your grandma's antique engagement ring, that vintage watch that's been passed down for generations. They've got the experience, the steady hand. They know their stuff inside and out.
So it's not just their skills, but also their judgment,
Yeah.
knowing how to handle those really precious pieces with the care they deserve.
Absolutely. They've seen it all, tackled every kind of repair imaginable. They don't panic under pressure. They just get the job done. But it's bigger than that at this level. They're usually taking on a leadership role, too.
Oh, interesting. So are we talking managing a team of repairers, making sure projects are done right and on time, maybe training those new apprentices?
All of that. They might be in charge of a whole team now, making sure everyone's working together, maintaining those high standards. They might be the ones passing on those hard-earned skills to the newbies.
Talk about a full circle moment. And are they also the ones interacting with those higher end clients? The ones with the big sparkly diamonds and the vintage Rolexes.
You got it. They're pros at explaining complex repairs, managing expectations, that sort of thing. They build those relationships, so clients feel confident handing over their prized possessions.
I'd say that's a pretty crucial part of the job.
Yeah,
So we're talking technical skills, people skills, a genuine passion for the craft. It's a lot to juggle.
for sure. And speaking of which, RoleCatcher has a profile from a senior jewelry repairer. It's a good one. Want to hear it?
Do I even need to answer that? Of course.
Okay, so this repairer says, over the years, years of experience, I've gotten to work on some seriously amazing pieces. Antique brooches, modern engagement rings with huge stones, you name it. They've seen it all.
I love that. Okay, what else?
They said every single piece has a story behind it, And it means a lot to people. It's an honor to be trusted with that. See, that's that empathy we were talking about.
It's true. I've definitely cried over a broken necklace or two in my day. Okay, sorry, go on.
Honestly, they said, I love the variety most. One day it's an antique pocket watch, the next it's laser welding a delicate chain, never a dull moment.
That's what keeps things interesting, right?
Totally. They also said, I've been lucky enough to mentor some really talented junior jewelers. Seeing them grow and find their own thing has been so rewarding.
Me too. It's like paying it forward. Okay, what else?
Last thing, they said, this job isn't always easy, gotta be realistic. But if you're passionate about this kind of work, there's nothing better than seeing a customer's face light up when you give them back their precious piece as good as new.
That's the best feeling. It really shows how much sentimental value people attach to their jewelry, doesn't it?
It's so true. It's more than just stuff. It's like little pieces of people's lives.
And that's easy to forget sometimes, with how fast-paced everything is these days. It's nice to be reminded that some things are meant to last.
Absolutely. Okay, so remember earlier when we saw those other titles for jewelry repairers in the RoleCatcher guide?
You mean like filigree maker and jewelry engraver? It was like this whole secret language?
Right. Like we talked about filigree makers. Those are the ones who create that delicate metal work, like lace made of metal. It's insane. And jewelry engravers, they personalize pieces with inscriptions, dates, all sorts of things. It's an art form.
They must have the steadiest hands ever. Seriously, I can barely sign my name legibly.
Right. And then there are those who work directly with the gemstones, like the setters. They're the ones who secure the stones, whether it's prongs, bezels, whatever it is. They need to know about the different types of settings, how to handle each stone.
It's like they're surgeons, but for gemstones. So cool.
And let's not forget the gem cutters, the ones who actually shape the stones to begin with, making them all sparkly and brilliant. They have a huge impact on how the light hits the stone.
Right, like they're revealing the hidden beauty inside.
Exactly. And then you've got your designers, the ones dreaming up all the amazing pieces, sketching them out, sometimes even using that CAD software to make 3D models.
It's like fashion design, but with tiny, precious details.
Totally. And of course, you've got the goldsmiths and silversmiths who actually create those pieces, a bit the master craftspeople, and the mounters who make the structural parts that hold it all together, the settings, the clasps, all of that.
Wow, so there's a specialist for everything. It really makes you appreciate the whole process so much more.
It's a whole ecosystem. And it all comes back to that love of jewelry, that desire to create something beautiful and lasting.
I'm with you. Speaking of which, I love that RoleCatcher doesn't just list these roles. They actually link to, like, more in-depth career guides so you can really go down the rabbit hole if something piques your interest.
It's true. It's like they're saying, hey, if this one thing sparks your curiosity, go explore it, see where it leads.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's perfect for someone who's just starting to figure things out, or even for someone who's thinking about switching careers.
Totally. And here's another cool thing. RoleCatcher points out some transferable skills that you might not even realize are relevant to jewelry repair.
Oh, interesting. You mean like skills you might already have that could be useful even if you've never touched a soldering iron?
Exactly. Like, ever tried adjusting your watch band or fixing a broken clasp on your own?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
I'm always fiddling with those tiny clasps. It's a miracle I haven't lost all my jewelry.
See, you're already on your way. It's those basic things, dexterity, attention to detail, being able to work with your hands that can be a great foundation.
And patience. Don't forget patience. Those tiny parts are not for the easily frustrated.
So true. And think about anyone who likes working with their hands, even if it's not jewelry model building, sewing, even fixing electronics. Those fine motor skills translate surprisingly well.
Oh, for sure. My friend who's obsessed with those super detailed model cars, I bet they'd be amazing at this.
Probably. And anyone who likes to tinker, take things apart just to see how they work. That natural curiosity is gold in this field.
Right. It's all about figuring out how things fit together, which, come to think of it, is a pretty useful skill in any profession, right?
100%. Oh, and we can't forget about customer service skills. Those are crucial.
Oh, absolutely. Especially when you're dealing with people's treasured possessions. You need to be a good listener, communicate clearly, and make people feel comfortable trusting you with their stuff.
Exactly. So even if you're coming from a completely different career, there's a good chance you've got some transferable skills that could give you a head start in the jewelry repair world.
That's actually really encouraging. It makes the whole field feel a lot more accessible, you know?
Totally. It's about being open to new possibilities and seeing those connections. And RoleCatcher makes it even easier with those links to related career guides.
Oh, yeah. We were talking about those before. So, like, what kind of related careers are we talking? Jewelry design, appraisal, or something completely different?
It's a really interesting mix. They have guides for designers, of course, but also for more technical roles like watch repair. Or gemological technicians, they're the ones analyzing and grading gemstones.
Whoa. So you could go from fixing a busted watch to analyzing a diamond under a microscope? Talk
Uh-huh.
about range.
Right. And if you're a history buff who loves old stuff, there's always antique jewelry restoration. Or if you're all about the latest and greatest tech, you could specialize in CAD design for jewelry or even get into 3D printing.
So many options. It really shows that you can find your own path within this field, whatever that looks like for you.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked skills, career paths, those cool job titles. But what if someone is ready to go for it? What does RoleCatcher say about actually launching a career as a jewelry repairer?
Yeah. What's their advice for turning this dream into a reality?
They have a whole section on getting started and advancing your career. It's super helpful.
Well, don't leave us hanging. Let's hear it.
Mhm.
What are some of those practical first steps?
They really emphasize hands-on experience.
That makes sense, but how do you get experience if you've never done it before?
Yeah.
Seems a little like, which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Right. It's
Uh,
that classic dilemma. But RoleCatcher recommends reaching out to jewelry stores and repair shops, even if it's just to volunteer or shadow someone for a day or two.
So like internships, apprenticeships, even just getting your foot in the door and showing that you're serious about learning.
Exactly. It's a chance to observe, get comfortable with the environment, and start making those all-important connections.
Because even in the age of like LinkedIn and job boards,
Mhm.
networking still matters.
Big time. Building relationships with people in the industry, that's huge. They can offer guidance, recommend you for jobs, all sorts of things. And while you're getting that hands-on experience, they also suggest taking some classes.
So like a jewelry making 101 type of thing. What kind of courses?
A lot of community colleges and vocational schools have programs specifically for jewelry repair. You can learn about the different metals, gemstones, techniques, all the fundamentals.
That's good to know. So what about if you're already working as a repairer, but you want to, level up your career? What does RoleCatcher say about that?
They're big on continuous learning no matter where you are in your career.
So even if you've been doing this for years, you can't just like coast.
Nope, the industry is constantly changing. New tech, new materials, new styles. You've got to keep up.
Makes sense. So how do you do that? More advanced courses, specialized workshops, spill the tea?
Exactly. They've got workshops on everything from advanced stone setting to laser welding, CAD design, you name it. Plus, there are always industry conferences and trade shows.
Oh, right. Those are great for networking, seeing the latest and greatest tools, and just immersing yourself in the jewelry world.
Exactly. And as you become more experienced, they recommend creating a portfolio of your work.
Like a visual resume,
Mhm.
showcasing your best repairs, your most creative solutions.
Yes, it's a way to stand out, demonstrate your unique style and skill set. And these days, it's easier than ever to create a beautiful online portfolio that anyone in the world can see.
So true. You could have your own website, a profile on Etsy or something, even just a dedicated Instagram for your work.
Exactly. It's all about building your personal brand as a jewelry repairer. And what better way to do that than by sharing your knowledge with others?
Oh, you mean like mentoring, teaching workshops? I love that.
They're all about that. It's about giving back to the community, helping others find their passion. It creates this amazing ripple effect.
I love that. It's not just about your own success, it's about lifting others up too.
Exactly. Okay, so we've covered a lot. Skills, career paths, all that. But you know what we haven't talked about yet?
Ooh, what? Don't leave me hanging.
Remember how you mentioned those AI-powered tools at the beginning? We need to dig into that.
Oh my gosh, yes. I almost forgot. AI analyzing job descriptions, prepping you for interviews. It sounds like something out of a movie.
It's pretty wild. They've got this thing called the AI-powered CV and resume builder.
Yeah.
It's a game changer.
Okay, how does it work? Does it just, like, fix typos or something?
It does way more than that. It actually analyzes your resume and compares it to the specific job you're applying for.
Get out. So it's like having a personal resume writer who knows exactly what employers are looking for.
Pretty much. It might suggest different phrasing, highlight specific skills, even recommend things to add based on the job description.
That's insane. It's like having a cheat code for the job market.
Right. It takes all the guesswork out of it. And it's a huge time saver, especially if you hate writing resumes.
Oh, tell me about it. I've spent hours agonizing over mine. So what else can their AI do? You mentioned something about interview prep.
Okay, so imagine this. They have a massive database of interview questions, all categorized by industry and job title. You can practice answering questions specifically for jewelry repairers.
No way. And the AI, like, listens to your answers and tells you how you're doing.
Yes, you can actually speak your answers out loud, and their AI analyzes them. It gives feedback on your clarity, content, even your tone of voice.
Are you kidding? It's like having a personal interview coach in your pocket.
I know, right? It helps so much with those pre-interview jitters. You can practice as much as you need until you nail it.
RoleCatcher has truly outdone themselves. I mean, they've broken down the entire field and given you all the tools to succeed.
They really have. It's pretty impressive, honestly. And who knows what they'll come up with next.
It's almost scary how good they are. Okay, I think this has been the most informative deep dive yet. We've learned so much about this whole other world of jewelry repair.
Right. It makes you appreciate those sparkly things even more.
Totally. It's like next time I see a beautiful necklace or a vintage watch, I'll be thinking about all the people who make sure it stays that way.
Me too. It's a whole unseen world of skill and artistry.
Okay, sadly, we've got to wrap things up here for now. But don't worry, we'll be back soon for the final part of our jewelry repair journey. And we're back for the final polish on our jewelry repair deep dive. We've covered so much ground already, the tools, the techniques, those amazing career paths.
It's been quite a journey. But there's more to being a successful jewelry repairer than just knowing how to use a laser welder or resize a ring.
Oh, absolutely. It takes a certain kind of person to do this kind of work, right? Like, beyond just the technical stuff, what are we talking about here?
Well, picture yourself hunched over a workbench, staring through a microscope at like a super delicate antique ring, right? The prongs are worn paper thin, and one wrong move could snap them.
Ooh, talk about pressure. My hands are sweating just thinking about it.
Exactly. So first and foremost, you got to be detail-oriented, like seriously meticulous, steady hands, a whole lot of patience, and the ability to focus for like hours on end.
Makes sense. You wouldn't want someone getting squirmy and knocking over a tray of diamonds. So, besides those, what else?
Oh, problem solving is huge in this field. Every piece that comes in is like its own little puzzle. You have to be able to assess the damage, figure out how it's put together, and come up with the best way to fix it, often on a tight deadline.
Right, because sometimes it's not as simple as just following the instructions in a repair manual. You've got to improvise, get creative.
Exactly. And it's that mix of technical know-how and creative problem solving that makes a jewelry repairer really stand out. Oh, and of course, you need good people skills too.
Right.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you're not just fixing jewelry, you're working with people.
Mm-hmm.
And people get really attached to their jewelry. It's emotional.
Totally. Being able to clearly explain those repairs, manage expectations, and build relationships with clients from all walks of life, that's a huge part of it.
That human touch makes all the difference.
100%. And I'd say a true passion for jewelry is non-negotiable. It's what drives you to perfect those tiny details, to keep learning, to really pour your heart into the craft.
It's what takes it from being just a job to something truly special.
Exactly. And that's really what we've discovered, haven't we? Jewelry repair is so much more than just fixing broken things. It's an art form in itself.
Absolutely. It's got everything. Technical skill, creativity, a little bit of history, and yeah, a bit of psychology too, especially when you're dealing with those sentimental pieces.
It's about preserving those memories, bringing those heirlooms back to life.
It's a pretty cool legacy to be a part of, honestly.
It really is.
Okay, I think we've polished this deep dive to a mirror shine. Anything else before we call it a wrap?
Just this. Next time you see a stunning piece of jewelry, doesn't matter if it's a vintage heirloom or a brand new ring, take a second to appreciate the craftsmanship behind it. And not just the people who made it, but the ones who keep it shining year after year.
Beautifully said. It's a whole world that most people don't even think about. Well, on that note, we'll say goodbye for now. But keep exploring, keep learning, and until next time, keep shining bright.